We know in business we need to have a business plan, but do you have a wealth plan? Business coach Leah Baldwin shares with us today why having a wealth plan is so important when it comes to creating wealth beyond your wildest dreams, and why you would do that and sit down and do that with a business coach. Leah, why business coaching for you?
So I've owned quite a number of businesses, and I found it really hard to get the right advice or support. So I made an awful lot of mistakes. And even though I had a really good accountant and a good relationship with my bank manager, I found that the information they gave me was okay, but it really didn't allow me to grow or grow my businesses. And like I say, I made lots of mistakes, and it was really frustrating. It was also really lonely. So when I sold my businesses and decided I really needed something else to do and I wanted a real challenge, I went, gosh, I've got all these skills and what am I going to do with them? And then realized, talking to other business owners, that they were in the same situation that I'd been in. And I had never heard of a business coach before, so I went looking to see what was out there. I came across Actioncoach, contacted you guys, and ended up here.
So what were some of those challenges that you just mentioned?
So some of those challenges were actually knowing what to do with the profit that I was making in my businesses. I hadn't figured out that the profit I was making could actually work for me outside the business. So I was just running a business, making money, looking at the profit every year, but I had no idea how to work that money outside the business. So I wasn't actually growing my wealth. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting because, we believe that being in business should give you more life, and many businesses maybe aren't even making a profit. So when you say using the profit that you make in your business to create wealth, just walk me through what that means. Like, is that buying real estate? Is it using that for shares? Like, what do you mean creating wealth?
So what I'm talking about is having a passive income as well as having your business. And like I say, I didn't feel I had anybody who understood that was what I was looking for. I mean, I'd heard about putting money into shares, real estate, and all those sorts of things, but I didn't feel that I was getting the right advice around that. I didn't feel anybody really understood my long-term plan. So, yeah, I've learned an awful lot since I've been with Actioncoach how to actually do that, which is a big bonus.
So tell me about that. What have you learned, and how do you help your clients?
Okay, so one of the most valuable tools that I've found with Actioncoach is the 30X programs, and that is one of the things that I take my clients through. And depending where they are on their journey, we either start with business or life. And I have some clients who have done all three, and now we're going back. So they've done business X, and they've done 30X life and X wealth, and now we're going back and starting again. But through that,
just for business owners that are listening, what's 30X?
Okay, so 30X is pretty much 30 videos that you can watch over 30 days. I actually give them to my clients once a week. And there are three parts to that. One is life, one is business, and one is wealth. X business pretty much takes you from the very basics of what you need to have in a business to get it so that you're not in chaos and you're actually making some money. Builds you through the 6 steps of how we build a business that works without you. Life, well, we're not coaching businesses, we're coaching people. So there are life skills that they need to learn to be able to be the person they need to be in that business. And that's what we get out of 30X life. And then we've got 30X wealth, which is kind of like where I was in my business, in that I've got a business that's making money, but I didn't know how to actually get that to actually grow my wealth outside the business. And X Wealth is a set of 30 videos that take you through that journey.
So what's an example of some of those strategies that X Wealth gives you and that you take your clients through?
Okay, so initially it gets people to see where they are on that kind of ladder of wealth, and where they need to be to get that, I suppose, that financial freedom that they're looking for. So part of that is actually building a wealth plan. It takes you through the options that you have. So one may be, it really starts pre-buying the business. So it shows you what you should look for and how to buy the right business. It then also shows you, okay, so what do we do once we've got a business going and we've got the right income coming in and you've got that profit, then what do we do with it? Are we going to look at buying real estate and investment properties? Are we going to look at shares? How do you go about doing that? How do you have those discussions with banks? And what are the questions you need to ask real estate agents? And how you set that up so that you don't make 1,000 mistakes like most people do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Nice little pieces.
So when you think about, you mentioned a wealth plan. I mean, that kind of concept's probably quite foreign to a lot of people. So it's like, what is a wealth plan? Is it a plan for how you're going to become wealthy, or is it a plan for what you're going to do with your wealth?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So when I sit down with business owners, most of them don't have a clue, and they really haven't ever written down a wealth plan. They might have a to-do list, if you like, but they don't really have a plan. One of the clients that I've been working with now for 3 years did not have a wealth plan. They had procrastinated for 15 years on whether they should really buy an investment property. So they had cash in the bank, but they'd never done anything with it. So over the last couple of years, they have been brave enough to dip into the real estate market, and they now have a couple of investment properties. And when I first started with them, to them, wealth was having $3 million. And we sat down and did their wealth plan again about 3 months ago, and that now is $30 million. So through the
Whoa, hold on. I mean, that just blows my mind. Back up a second. You just need to repeat that for me. So their idea of wealth was having $3 million. And then by sitting down with you, creating a wealth plan for them, it's now how much?
30 million. 30 million. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. I had told them the 3 million wasn't enough and they needed to dream big. And then, like I say, they have gone through all of the 30X videos. So they've done all 3, and now we're starting again. And it wasn't until they got to the end of the wealth one and they went, oh my gosh, this is all starting to click together. And yeah, we can see that we can do this.
So the 30X, just for listeners, the 30X is a program that all Actioncoach clients get access to.
Yes.
You often think that it's 30 times your results or, 30 times something. This is really 30 minutes with our founder, Brad Sugars, teaching all of the strategies and how to create a better life, business, and wealth. So I love that. Now, most people would think that they wouldn't think to come to a business coach to get help with a wealth plan. They would think, financial planner as an example. Why would someone come to you or a business coach for help in creating wealth?
Because the role of a business coach is to push you beyond your limits. And I found personally what held me back was I went to my bank manager, I went to my accountant, who most of us expect to be the professionals in that field, but they never pushed me beyond my own ceiling, if you like. Whereas as business coaches, our role is to ask the questions and to get people to look at their lives quite differently and to ask themselves the questions. How far can I push myself? Who said I can't achieve that?
So bigger thinking.
Yeah, but it's not just bigger thinking. It's about looking at what are the barriers that hold me back. So a lot of people will think about things and they'll have dreams, but they never put it into action. And there'll be all these things that are holding them back from putting into action. And it could be limiting self-beliefs. It could be they don't see themselves as ever being that person. They can dream about it, but they don't visualize it and go, this is totally achievable for me.
So what's an example, like you with all the businesses and business owners and people that you've worked with over the years as a business coach? What is is there one thing that sort of you find is common that keeps them stuck?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to one, not knowing, not having the skills and knowledge. They haven't continued on with education. They've kind of done their trade or they've left school or whatever, and they haven't realized that there's a whole lot of things that they need to learn to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. And the other comes down to fear. For some reason, like I said before, they can dream it, but when it comes to actually stepping up, something holds them back. It could be that they're afraid that they will not have the friendships and relationships and things like that they've had in the past because they're going to be someone different. It could be something that somebody said to them when they were a child about money and, you shouldn't have a lot of money or, rich people are horrible or whatever. There's some little story they're telling themselves that holds them back. And most people haven't even articulated that to themselves. They're not aware that that's what the problem is.
So how do you as a business coach help them through that process? Is it being in their corner to kind of cheer them on, motivating them for change, helping them discover what their belief system is?
I think it's all of those, Michelle. Really? It's really sitting down with them and having some hard conversations at times. Sometimes you've got to pick up the mirror and put it in front of somebody and go, who do you see? Because that's not who I see. So, what are we going to do? How do we change that? It's really interesting when they realize that. It's like this light bulb goes off in their head. Like you can actually physically see it. They just have this moment and they go, oh my gosh, you're so right. Like I've been telling myself this story about myself, which is rubbish. And they just suddenly go, no, I'm going to do this. This is what's going to happen. Yeah. That's probably the best part of being a business coach, When you see the light bulb moment and you go, right, now things are going to change because they've just suddenly found it in them to go ahead and do it.
So you mentioned planning, not just planning sort of around wealth, but just planning and then action. What's a strategy or something that you can teach business owners that are listening around what the first step would be?
So one thing that I figured out really early on, and it actually was something that I actually learned from a horse trainer, not from a business coach. But it was pretty much that one of the things that stops us from doing something is that we look at it and we see it as a mountain to climb, right? And it's like, it's not a mountain. It's just one step in front of the other. So it doesn't, so when you're looking at a plan and you go, oh my gosh, I'm going to achieve, I need to achieve all this in the next 12 months. It's like, no, you don't. All you need to do is achieve one small thing one day at a time. So let's break it down into the tiniest little pieces, and that's all we have to do. And Brad tells us small incremental changes lead to massive results. And I find once you actually realize that, the mountain just disappears. Every week, all we're looking at when we meet is just one step at a time. And you can apply that
So
to
how did you
anything.
hear that?
Anything in business.
How is that applicable to horses? Just out of curiosity.
All right. So I was given a horse, a 3-month-old colt, for my 40th birthday, and he ended up being quite a handful. And I tried all sorts of things, and I just, butting heads with this horse. Anyway, 7 years on, I finally found a horse trainer by the name of Warwick Schiller, and he's an Australian who now lives in America, and he was in New Zealand, and I'd been following him on YouTube and all the rest of it. And I went to a clinic with my horse Shelby, and Warwick, he taught me 2 things. One was, Leah, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I realized, and this was just, it took me a little bit of licking and chewing. And if you're a horse person, you'll know horses lick and chew, right? That's when they're kind of processing stuff. It took me a whole lot of licking and chewing to understand that. My problem was I was looking at my horse like he was an a-hole, whereas actual fact, it was me. And he was projecting back to me who I was at that time. That was lesson number 1. The other one was he taught me a game, and it is Donkey Kong. And if you remember when they first brought out like Pac-Man and all the rest of it, there was a game called Donkey Kong. And in Donkey Kong, you had all these challenges, right? And when you first start off, you don't know how to play the game. So you're going through there and you get past stage 1, and the next thing, bang, you're dead. Well, you can't start to play the game. You've got to go all the way back to the beginning, right? And then get better at it until you can get to the next stage. So Warwick looked at this and he described horse training this way. He said, you've got to take every step. So when you hit a wall, you've got to go back to the beginning, because the reason you hit the wall is because you missed a vital part somewhere, and you've got to go find what that vital part was that you missed, get it right, and then keep going. And pretty much, honestly, I think that's how you grow a business.
Well, that's how you grow anything, really, isn't it? Both of those are just, wow, incredible lessons in life. I feel like you could write a book, Leah, on lick and chew and Donkey Kong concepts. Okay, so
it's an unusual thing, and to be honest with you, that was one of the things that led me to business coaching, was what Warwick put out there. It was like, oh my gosh, and it did. It changed completely the way I looked at everything.
So lick and chew, how do you relate that to business?
Okay, because that's what business owners do.
Lick and chew.
So I find with my clients, sometimes you have a discussion about something that's happening in the business, and they don't want to accept that that's what's happening, and they don't want to accept that, like, there's a common phrase I've heard, and it's the fish rots from the head down, right? So they don't want to accept the fact that they are the reason that things aren't working well in their business. So sometimes you've got to have a conversation with them and just leave it there, because I believe they need to lick and chew. And some of them may need to lick and chew for a day, and some of them may need to lick and chew for longer. But eventually they come around and go, that thing you said, Leah, you're right. Depends on the people you're working with. Egos. It depends on egos as well.
Interesting. We could do a whole other episode on ego, couldn't we?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So Donkey Kong, tell me how that concept, then how do you relate that to business?
Okay, so what I see happen with a lot of businesses that, for example, you might have a tradie and they decide that they want to go out on their own, okay? And they do that for a while, and then all of a sudden they get a lot of work in and they need to employ people. And they know nothing about employing people, but they bring in a group of people, they get more work. And quite often what happens is they get to a point where it's just chaos. And they actually have no idea if they're making money or not. And they're just running around like a bit of a headless chicken, not sure why their business isn't providing them with what they want it to provide. So I relate that to Donkey Kong because they've missed some vital steps along the way. The business is growing too fast for them. They haven't put in the systems, all the processes, and they haven't done the right training, and they haven't followed through in such a way that everything's ticked off, if you like. It's like they've created this thing, but the building blocks aren't there. So you've got to take them back and go, where's the gap? What are we missing? Because they won't know. And it takes, even when we sit down for that initial diagnostic with a business owner, we won't get all the information then. So that's why we're always digging. Every time we meet, it's like, okay, so that's your version of what's happening, but is that really what's happening? Let's go back. You show me. Does that actually happen in your business? And I think,
and that's not something that you're going to.
Sorry.
That's not something that you're going to get necessarily from a bank manager or an accountant, even potentially. Is those that level of questioning to dig, right? That's the benefit of a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, as a coach, we don't necessarily believe what business owners tell us the first time. Sometimes you have an inkling that there's more to it, and sometimes you do need to dig. And that can be just a matter of changing the way you ask the same question. I think business, it's just people. Okay, like when you ask somebody what's going on in their life or what do they think the problem is in their business, the answer they give you is normally something that, if you look at an onion, it's just the outside wrapping. Where the real issue is about 3 layers in. And your bank manager's not going to ask you that. They don't even probably know the questions to ask. All they want to do is make sure that the numbers stack up. And accountants are very much the same.
So tell me about a client that you've worked with where you have helped peel back that onion.
So one of my first clients was a young mum who, when she left school, worked for her dad, and she was his office girl. And the company they had was a commercial cleaning, landscaping, gardening business. And Dad decided to retire, and she bought the business from him. She had 4 children. The oldest was a teenager. The youngest was about 6 months old. And she had the business about 3 months when we connected. And she said to me, I really want to grow this business. I really want to show my dad that I can do this. So we sat down, and the first thing we looked at was the financial situation in the business. And I mean, it was a good little business. It was doing about 600K kind of thing. But it had a, what's the word I'm thinking? It wasn't a secure business because 90% of the work was for one customer. So we sat down and talked about how are we going to grow your business and reduce that risk of you losing that customer, because if that happens, we've pretty much only got a third of a business. So she got really good at looking at her financials. So we were looking at her financials every week. We broke them all down and worked out where she was, what her profit margins and everything were. And then we looked at the opportunity. So what other opportunity did she have in the business? And something happened probably about 6 months in that totally changed the way she looked at her business and how she was approaching building it. And she got a letter from a government department. And the letter pretty much said, look, we need a cleaner. Our current cleaning contract has cancelled. And we've tried everybody else in town, and they've said no. Our budget is $25 an hour. Can you help us? And anyway, we were having one of our business coaching sessions, and she pulled out this letter and she said, She said, I can't help them because I can't provide the service to them for $25 an hour. And I said, what if we look at that a different way? So they've already told you they've tried everybody else and everybody else has said no. Who else are they going to get? They've run out of options and they've come to you. So what if we look at this and go, okay, what would they need to pay for it to be viable for you and for you to make, employ someone to do it for you, improve your bottom line. So she went away and she spent the week working on all of that, and she came back and said, Leah, I need them to pay me $45 an hour. And we're going, okay, all right. So now we're going to write a really nice letter to them and go, we'd really love to help you. This is how we can help you. And, we can get a cleaner in there in a very short period of time if you're happy with my proposal. And they did. And then it was like, okay, so that's the way we're going to do business from now on in. We're going to tell people what we're worth. And within 12 months, we doubled her revenue.
That's amazing. So just approaching it a different way, thinking differently. Yeah, that's incredible.
Back to that. Change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Is this an opportunity or is this a waste of my time? Opportunity.
Lots of lick and chew moments.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Amazing. Thank you, Leah. So many BFOs in this interview. 3 questions I want to ask you. Favorite book and why?
Now, there is a coach in New Zealand who wrote this book, and it is A Year of Profit, and this is my Bible. Because Mark Daniels wrote this, and there's 52 strategies in here to boost your business. And I look at that as being one strategy a week. So I work with my clients with this book. The beauty of it is Mark Daniels is a New Zealand coach, and he's proven these strategies work in New Zealand. So 100% recommend.
Great.
Everybody grabbing that book.
The most impactful, and I think I know the answer to this, the most impactful mentor or coach for you throughout your life?
2. One is Warwick Schiller, my horse trainer, who really is a people trainer. He doesn't train the horses. He trains the person on the end of the rope. And the other would be Bruce Wilson with Actioncoach. Bruce has been with me for this whole 5.5-year journey. And, yeah. And like every other coach in Actioncoach that he has mentored, I don't think any of us would be here if we hadn't had him on board.
Yes, we're very lucky to have him.
We are. I agree.
I loved what you just said then, where you said Warren was saying that it's at the end of the rope. It's the person at the end of the rope. It's not the horse. Isn't that so true? If we were to look at business, it's actually not the business. It's the person in charge of the business. Love that. And the last one, best piece of advice that you've ever received. You've probably given me those 2 already.
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, it's probably 3 things, okay? It's change the way you look at things and things you look at change. It's play the Donkey Kong game. And the other is small incremental changes lead to massive results. I think those 3 things apply to every part of life. It's not, like you said before, it's not just business. It's every part of life. And it is so true. I see those things in front of me all the time.
So many takeaways from this episode. Leah Baldwin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Michelle. It's been fun.
Michelle Adams, your host here. Hats off to you for committing to your learning by listening to this podcast. And if you'd like some help implementing some of these strategies, then click the link in the description to find your local action coach. They can help you put these strategies into action and take your business and your life to the next level. In the meantime, like and subscribe so that you're the first to get our next episode. We'll see you soon.